I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
Being free means to me just being able to feel the way that I want to feel and express how I want to express, and I don't know, being able to do what I want to do as an American. I just voted for the first time, so that's what free means to me. Being able to stand up for what I believe in.
I feel like being free is just another way you can express yourself without anybody holding you back. I feel like that's the true meaning of feeling free.
Freedom to me is that the American people and myself, we can do anything. Our dreams are limitless. We can accomplish anything as long as we put our mind to it. And I truly believe that this is the greatest place on earth to become anything you want to be, no matter who you are, what age, race, gender, sex, no matter what.
50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone.
I'm doing this for my kids, so letting them know if I can do it, they can do it too. So my kids walk with me.
I definitely couldn't do it by myself. You know, I need people's feedback. I mean, even in my classes, my professors help me. My friends encourage me. My family encourages me. And without that encouragement, I don't know where I'd be right now.
My parents, they've always been there for me. They always help me through. They always have my back. I could tell also my sister, my older sister, she's always there for me. She's always supporting me in everything, you know, economically, you know. So I will thank my whole family are the ones who are there along with me with my education.
Honestly, my grandmother, she, even though, you know, she's passed on and things, She always used to tell me while I was in school or high school, make sure you get that paper, meaning make sure you get the diploma that you worked for in high school. And when my graduation day came up, all I heard was, you got your paper. So I'm continuing my education and keep hearing her voice in my head.
My family has been there for me. My support group, they've always been there for me. They've working their backs to help me get here, so I'm breaking my back to not let them down.
My mom walks with me. She came here as an immigrant from another country, and so coming here at the age that she didn't have the opportunities, the educational opportunities that I do, and she's been pushing me to, get my education and to move forward with what I want to do and pursue my dreams.
And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied. As long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. And some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with.
I hope that we can become debt-free and not be $16 trillion in debt. That we can come back to the economy that it once was before the recession hit in 2007, and that we can strive to be the best nation that we are.
My hope for the future of America is for it to be a better place than it was when I came into it. I have nephews and nieces, and I would want them to inherit America better than it was when I came in. Like, I would hope for things to be easier for them, as well as more opportunities to be available for them. So my hope for America is that it will be a better place.
More jobs. That we can all kind of get along, just because there's always going to be that tension of whether someone is racist, whether someone is, hateful against some sexual preference. We all are humans, and we all have, our certain traits, and you can't just discriminate someone against whether the color of the skin they are, color of the hair they are. We could all be green, blue, yellow, white, whatever we are, and it doesn't really matter. It should not matter.
My hope for America, 2013, 2014, centuries on to now, that I will foresee, hopefully, is that there be more diversity and more unity. I feel for some reason with this day and age, unity is slipping, and I don't know if it's in terms of educational reasons, and economy, resources, lack of motivation, but I really hope that there's an increase of unity and diversity spread through all Americans today, because I feel that we need each other. There's no human that can face this life alone. So I feel that if we can just come together as one, as a whole, as Martin Luther King stated in his speech, I feel that the world will be such a much better and peaceful place.
I hope that we can all join together and finally come to an understanding and have equality in America.
To be able to understand everybody and know that not everybody's the same and we all are different.
With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
We can't think too much on the negative. We got to look at the positive and focus nothing but on the positive, because if we keep going back to the past and keep making that the separation, then we're never gonna go further. So I would say that if we could just move further and just adapt and just work together.
Economically, just support your family, have a good education, do the right thing, stay out of harm's way, make good choices, don't be involved in illegal stuff or, gangs, drugs, just stay away from it. I mean, just make good choices.
In short, let's all be ambassadors of peace.
I would say how important, I believe personally for me, how important it is to develop a sense of self and to really understand who you are. And I feel as though if you don't understand who you are, it's hard to get anywhere. So I believe that people need to have a sense of self in order to be motivated and just to keep moving.
I'd say to have faith. I mean, it seems kind of like a general concept, but personally I have faith in God. But if you have no faith at all in anything, I mean, there's not really a point in you really pursuing an education or anything. You're kind of wasting time until you have something to believe in.
I would specifically say that no one should ever give up and to always strive what you want to do and always accomplish your goals.
If America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.